The glass doors of the boutique slid open with a soft chime. Inside, golden chandeliers glittered against polished marble floors, the air heavy with perfume and wealth. Every handbag, every suit, every pair of shoes seemed to whisper luxury. He walked in slowly, his steps echoing like a warning. Every worker froze. Kim Jae-hyun, the most feared mafia boss in Seoul, had entered. His black tailored suit hugged his tall frame. A silver watch gleamed on his wrist, and his expression was carved in stone. People who crossed his path rarely looked him in the eye. Those who did usually regretted it. But today, his heart wasn't in the business of intimidation. He had come only to shop. Or at least that was the excuse he told himself. He adjusted his cufflinks, ready to glance over the racks of expensive suits, when a soft, warm voice drifted across the boutique. "Welcome to Elliot Luck's boutique," she said. He froze. The owner herself had appeared from behind the counter. A tall, beautiful black woman with flawless brown skin, long braids that framed her face, and an aura of confidence that made the entire store seem suddenly smaller. Her name tag read simply, Elliot. Her smile was warm, bold, and just a little mischievous. "How can I help you today, sir?" And that was the moment it happened. Something inside him snapped. For months, he had lived in shame. After the brutal car accident caused by his rivals, the doctors had told him he would never function as a man again. His body had betrayed him, left him feeling half dead, less than who he used to be. Beautiful Korean models had tried to seduce him, but every attempt ended in humiliation. They always left whispering behind his back. But now, here in this boutique, just at the sound of Elliot's voice, his body reacted. Fierce, undeniable, uncontrollable. His manhood stirred, hardened, and burned with a force he hadn't felt in years. Panic gripped him. His jaw clenched, sweat prickled his forehead. He lowered his gaze instantly, unable to look at her kind eyes. His chest tightened, not from fear, but from shock. "What is happening to me? Sir? Are you okay?" Elliot tilted her head, curious. Her voice was gentle but firm, the kind of voice that demanded honesty. He couldn't speak, couldn't think. His breath caught like he had been punched. Without a word, he turned abruptly, storming toward the door. The guards outside scrambled, confused, as their boss brushed past them. The chime rang again, and just like that, he was gone. Inside, Elliot blinked, stunned. "What on earth?" she muttered under her breath. "Did I scare him away?" That night, Jae-hyun sat in his penthouse apartment, staring at the city lights. A glass of whiskey trembled in his hand. The scene replayed in his mind again and again. The smile, the voice, the warmth of her greeting, and the shameful, glorious truth that followed. For the first time in years, his body had responded. He slammed the glass down, cracking the edge of the table. "This isn't real," he muttered to himself. "I'm imagining things." But no matter how many times he told himself that, he couldn't erase the memory. 2 days passed. He couldn't eat. He couldn't focus on meetings. His men noticed his distraction, but none dared to question him. Finally, desperate, he called his doctor. "You're saying you reacted?" The doctor's voice on the other end of the line was skeptical. "Yes." His tone was sharp, defensive. "Impossible. Your scans don't lie, Mr. Kim. It must be in your head. A phantom feeling, nothing more." But Jae-hyun knew what he had felt. The fire was too real, too strong. He leaned back in his leather chair, rubbing his temples. Delusional? Maybe. But he couldn't deny it. He wanted to see her again. No, he needed to. The following week, he found himself back at Elliot Luck's boutique. This time, he came without his guards. A mafia boss walking alone into enemy territory. That was unheard of. But for once, he didn't care. The chime rang, and once again, her voice reached him. Back again. Elliot's lips curved into a teasing smile. She wore a fitted white dress that showed off her curves, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I didn't think the great Kim Jae-hyun was the shopping type." He stiffened, his heartbeat thundering. The same thing happened again. His body stirred uncontrollably at the sound of her voice. He blushed, actually blushed, and quickly grabbed a random blazer from the rack. "I'll take this," he muttered, avoiding her gaze. Her laughter rang out, rich and playful. "Are you sure? That one is 2 sizes too small. Unless you're planning to gift it to one of your models." His ears burned. He tossed the blazer onto the counter, picked another, then another, buying them all without even looking at the price tags. Elliot leaned forward, resting her elbows on the counter. "You know, most men don't come here alone. And certainly not you. Why is Seoul's most feared man suddenly a frequent visitor to my shop?" The boldness of her question made his breath catch. No one dared to talk to him like that. No one. And yet, instead of anger, he felt something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Alive. That night, as he carried bags of clothes he didn't even need, his men whispered in confusion. But Jaehyun ignored them. His mind, his heart, his very body, everything was trapped in a loop. Her voice, her smile, her teasing. For the first time in years, Kim Jae-hyun, the savage mafia boss of Seoul, felt powerless. And he didn't hate it. The next morning, the streets of Seoul buzzed with life. Honking horns, neon lights, and the endless rush of people chasing wealth. Inside the penthouse of the Kim Syndicate, however, the atmosphere was tense. Kim Jae-hyun sat at the long oak table in the conference room, his lieutenants surrounding him. They were discussing weapons shipments, rival gangs, and debts owed. But Jae-hyun barely heard a word. Instead, his mind kept wandering back to the boutique, to her, to Elliot's mischievous smile, the teasing glint in her eyes. "Boss, should we move the drop-off to Busan?" one of his men asked cautiously. "Do what you want," Jae-hyun muttered, waving him off. Every man at the table froze. The boss never spoke like that. Usually, his word was law, sharp, calculated, absolute. Today, he was distracted, soft. And that alone was dangerous. By afternoon, he had made up his mind. Without explanation, Jae-hyun dismissed his guards and stepped into his black Lamborghini alone. No convoy, no backup, just him. The streets parted as the mafia boss cruised through Seoul, his face unreadable, but his heart racing. When the boutique's glass doors opened once more, the chime sounded almost mocking. Elliot was there again, in a chic black jumpsuit that clung to her figure, her braids pinned back elegantly. She looked up, spotted him, and smirked. Well, she said, her voice warm but playful. "If it isn't Mr. Mysterious himself. Back again? You know, people will start thinking you own this place." Jae-hyun froze mid-step. Again, his body betrayed him instantly, burning alive at her words. He cursed silently, fighting to keep his composure. His lips pressed into a thin line as he walked toward a rack of suits. Elliot followed, her heels clicking softly against the marble. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Or are you here to buy me out again?" He said nothing. Instead, he picked a random navy suit, then another, stacking them over his arm like a nervous schoolboy. Elliot folded her arms, amusement dancing across her face. "You do realize mafia men usually intimidate boutique owners, not panic shop." That word, panic, made his jaw tighten. For a moment, his old self, the savage boss, almost flared back to life. But when he looked up, he met her eyes, and the fire melted into something else entirely. Something softer. Elliot leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "What's the real story here? Why are you visiting me so much? And alone?" Jae-hyun's throat tightened. No one dared question him like this. Not his men, not his enemies, not even the police. But this woman, this boutique owner, spoke to him as if he were just a man. Not a monster, not a kingpin, not a savage. Just a man. For the first time in years, he felt naked under someone's gaze. He swallowed hard and forced his voice steady. "Do I need permission to shop?" Elliot tilted her head, grinning. "No. But you don't strike me as the kind of man who buys 10 suits in one visit without trying them on. Either you're terrible at shopping, or there's something else." Her boldness both unsettled and thrilled him. He turned sharply, walking toward the counter, tossing the suits down. "Wrap them." "Of course, boss," she teased, her eyes gleaming as she began folding them. The way she said boss, not in fear but in mockery, made him bite the inside of his cheek to hide the smile tugging at his lips. Meanwhile, across the street, a black van sat idling. Inside, members of a rival gang watched with suspicion. "Why does Kim Jae-hyun keep coming here?" one of them muttered. "He's always alone. No guards. No entourage. Strange. Maybe the boss has a weakness." Their eyes narrowed. In the underworld, rumors spread like wildfire, and the idea of the great Jae-hyun showing vulnerability in a public boutique, that was something rivals could use. Back inside, Elliot handed him the bags. "There you go, mystery man. A closet full of clothes you'll probably never wear." To her surprise, Jae-hyun chuckled, softly, almost shyly. The sound startled even him. He hadn't laughed like that in years. "You're bold," he said, finally meeting her gaze. "And you're weird," she shot back with a grin. "But at least you have good taste in boutiques." For a moment their eyes locked. The air thickened, charged with something neither of them could name. Jae-hyun's heart pounded, his chest heavy with longing and confusion. But then his phone buzzed. A message from his right-hand man. "Rival spotted nearby. Be careful." He clenched his jaw, grabbed the bags, and turned toward the door. Elliot called after him, her voice light but laced with curiosity. "See you soon, boss. Don't be a stranger." The words hit him like a bullet. "See you soon." As he stepped into the night, Jae-hyun knew one thing for certain. He couldn't stay away. That night, he stood at his penthouse window again, watching the city burn with neon. He should have been planning strategy, hunting rivals, reinforcing his empire. Instead, he thought of Elliot. The way she teased him, the way she wasn't afraid, the way his body obeyed her voice like a command. And for the first time in years, Kim Jae-hyun, the savage mafia boss, admitted something to himself. "I want her, not for business, not for pride, but for himself, raw, desperate, and real." The night sky over Seoul pulsed with neon light, but Jae-hyun's penthouse was silent. He sat alone in his office. The city spread out before him like a kingdom he no longer cared to rule. Piles of contracts and files lay on the desk, ignored. His mind kept circling back to one thing. One woman, Elliot. Her laugh, her teasing, the way she looked into his eyes like he wasn't a monster or a legend, but a man. A man who could blush, a man who could stumble. And worse, she was the only one who made him feel alive. By morning, he was already behind the wheel of his Lamborghini, headed back to Elliot Luck's boutique. He hated how much he needed this, hated the desperation burning inside him. But he also couldn't resist it. The boutique's glass doors chimed again as he entered. Elliot was standing behind the counter, flipping through a fashion magazine. Today she wore a crimson-red jumpsuit that hugged her curves like a second skin. She looked up, her lips already curling into a smirk. "Well, look who it is," she said smoothly. "The man with more suits than days of the year." Jae-hyun froze, as always, the moment she spoke. His body betrayed him instantly, heat surging through him, his pulse quickening. He gripped the edge of a display table to steady himself, forcing his face to remain blank. Elliot tilted her head, eyeing him with curiosity. "You know, Mr. Kim, I've been thinking, either you really love my shop, or you're running from something." He finally met her gaze, dark eyes narrowing. "And what do you think I'm running from?" Her smile widened. "Yourself." The word pierced him. For a heartbeat, he forgot to breathe. Elliot laughed softly, breaking the heavy silence. "Relax. I'm only joking. But seriously, what's the deal? You never come with guards, never bring friends. You just buy clothes like it's therapy." Jae-hyun's jaw tightened. If only she knew. If only she understood how much power she unknowingly had over him. Instead of answering, he grabbed a sleek black coat from the rack. "This one," he muttered. Elliot came around the counter, brushing close enough that her perfume wrapped around him like a spell. She reached for the coat, her fingers brushing against his hand. He flinched. Her eyes flicked up, sharp and amused. "Are you nervous?" No, the lie tasted bitter. "Yes, you are," she teased. The great Mafia boss, nervous in front of a boutique owner. "If people knew this side of you, I'd make headlines." His lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. For once, he didn't feel like killing someone who mocked him. For once, he wanted to hear more. Outside, across the street, the black van was back. Rival eyes watched through tinted glass, their suspicion growing sharper each day. "He's here again," one whispered, "and again without guards. This woman, she must mean something. If she does, she's his weakness, and weakness is blood." Back inside, Elliot carried the coat to the counter. "So tell me something," she said lightly, folding the fabric. "Why does a man like you, famous, feared, wealthy, keep coming back here?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. The truth clawed at his throat. "Because you woke me up. Because I thought I was dead inside until you spoke to me. Because I can't stop imagining your smile, your voice, your touch." Instead, he muttered, "I like your boutique." Elliot rolled her eyes. "Sure you do." She leaned closer across the counter, lowering her voice to a near whisper. "You know, if you keep buying all these clothes, I might start thinking you're trying to impress someone." The air thickened instantly. Her words struck him deep, stirring images he couldn't control. Her in his arms, his lips on hers, her voice breaking in pleasure. His throat tightened, his body burning, his heart racing like a man facing his final battle. He clenched his fists. Not here. Not now. That evening, Jaehyun's right-hand man finally confronted him. "Boss," the man said carefully, "the rivals are talking. They say you've been distracted, that you're spending too much time in a boutique." Jaehyun's gaze snapped up, sharp as a blade. And, the man hesitated, sweat on his brow. "They say you're weak, that a woman has your attention." The room went deadly silent. Jaehyun rose from his chair, his presence suffocating. "Do they think a woman can undo me?" His man bowed his head quickly. "Of course not, boss. But people are watching. If she means something to you, she's in danger." The words hit him like a blow. He dismissed his man with a wave, but the thought clung to him long into the night. Danger. For Elliot, the one person who had made him feel alive again. 2 nights later, he returned to the boutique again, this time long after closing hours. The city was quiet, the streetlights dim. He knocked gently against the glass door. Elliot appeared inside, startled but smiling when she saw him. She unlocked the door. "You again? Do you ever sleep?" He stepped in, his presence filling the space. This time, there were no customers, no noise, no distractions. Just him. Just her. "I wanted to see you," he said finally, his voice low and rough. Her playful smirk faded into something softer. She studied him, seeing the weight behind his words. "Then sit," she said gently, motioning toward a velvet chair. For the first time in his life, the savage Mafia boss obeyed. The city was restless that night. Rain poured over Seoul in heavy sheets, the streets slick with water and neon reflections. Somewhere in the chaos, shadows moved, rival gangs who had been waiting, watching. Kim Jae-hyun had made himself predictable. Every few days, he was seen slipping into the boutique alone, without guards, without protection. For the first time in years, the savage Mafia boss had a routine, and routines could be exploited. The ambush happened fast. Jae-hyun had just left Elliot Luck's boutique, arms full of shopping bags he didn't need, when the van screeched to a halt at the corner. Black-masked men poured out like vultures, guns gleaming in the rain. He reacted instantly, his instincts razor-sharp. Dropping the bags, he drew his pistol and fired, each shot clean, deliberate. 2 men fell, but 3 more came charging. A blade slashed across his side, hot pain ripping through him. He fought like a cornered beast, his rage painting the night red. But there were too many, and his strength faltered as blood seeped into his shirt. A horn blared nearby, scattering the attackers as headlights cut through the storm. The rivals fled, leaving him staggering in the rain, wounded and furious. Instead of calling his men, Jae-hyun did something reckless, something unthinkable for a mafia boss. He dragged himself back to the boutique. By the time he stumbled against the glass doors, Elliot was inside, counting her earnings for the day. She gasped at the sight of him, soaked, bleeding, his black shirt clinging to his body. Jae-hyun. Her voice was sharp with panic. She rushed forward, unlocking the door and pulling him inside. "Oh my God! What happened?" "Nothing," he muttered, his voice rough, teeth clenched in pain. "Just a scratch." She glared at him. "A scratch? You're bleeding all over my floor." He collapsed into one of the velvet chairs, his breath shallow. The savage mafia boss who terrified Seoul now sat slumped like a wounded boy. Elliot's heart pounded. She grabbed a first aid kit from the back room, hands trembling but determined. "Take off your shirt," she ordered. He smirked faintly through the pain. "You're bold. Don't joke with me right now," she snapped. "Do it." Slowly, he obeyed, peeling off the blood-soaked fabric. Elliot's eyes widened at the sight of his scars. Old wounds crisscrossing his chest, fresh cuts from tonight's fight. His body was strong, powerful, but broken in places. She cleaned the gash on his side, pressing the cloth firmly. He hissed, muscles tensing, his jaw clenching. "Hold still," she murmured, her tone softening. "You act like you're made of stone, but you bleed just like the rest of us." For a moment, their eyes locked. The distance between them shrank, heavy with something unspoken. "Why didn't you go to your men?" she asked quietly. "Why come here?" He swallowed hard, his gaze burning into hers. "Because I trust you." Her breath caught. The words were simple, but in them was a weight she couldn't ignore. As she bandaged his wound, the air grew charged. His body was close, his breath hot against her cheek. Her hands lingered on his skin longer than necessary, tracing the scars as if reading the story of his survival. "You're crazy," she whispered, shaking her head. "A mafia boss showing up at a woman's boutique bleeding? Do you want to get me killed?" His lips twitched, half a smile, half a grimace. "If they come for you, I'll end them." Something inside Elliot shifted. This man was dangerous, broken, unpredictable. But in his rawness, she saw something real. Something no amount of money or power could fake. Her fingers brushed against his, and the spark was undeniable. Jae-hyun leaned in slowly, his usual confidence stripped away. For once, there was no mask, no savage facade, just a man craving, something he thought he had lost. Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, then deeper, hungrier. Elliot gasped against him, her heart racing as his hand cupped the back of her neck, pulling her closer. The kiss was desperate, a storm breaking after years of drought. He kissed her like a man starved, like the world might end if he didn't taste her. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Elliot's eyes were wide. What was that?" she whispered. His gaze burned into hers, dark and raw. "The truth." Outside, in the shadows, unseen eyes watched the boutique through rain-smeared glass. A rival's voice whispered into the radio. "He cares for her. He's bleeding and he went to her. This is his weakness." And with that, Elliot's fate was sealed. The city outside glittered like 1,000 diamonds scattered across the night sky. High-rise towers glowed, cars hummed on the streets below. But in the penthouse suite of Jun-ho, the mafia boss, time felt like it had stopped. Elliot stood by the wide glass window, her reflection shimmering against the lights. She wore a simple silk dress he had bought her earlier that week, but on her body, it looked like something crafted for queens. Her hair fell in soft curls, framing her face, and the warm smile she gave him was enough to strip every ounce of toughness from his chest. Jun-ho leaned against the edge of the couch, his heartbeat erratic. For days he had dreamed of this moment, feared it, longed for it, prepared for it. The accident, the pain, The humiliations from doctors and failed encounters with models had carved deep scars inside him. Yet here she was, this black woman named Elliot, shattering every boundary of his broken body and stirring a fire that had lain cold for too long. He whispered, almost afraid of his own words, "Elliot, I don't know how to do this gently." Elliot turned, raising one brow, her lips curving into a teasing smile. "And here I thought the Mafia boss always knew what to do." He chuckled nervously, running a hand over his face. "Not with you. With you, I feel like I'll lose control." "Then lose it," she said simply, stepping toward him, her heels clicking softly against the floor. "I'm not afraid." That was the last straw. He grabbed her hand, pulled her against him, and kissed her as though he had been starved his entire life. His lips crashed against hers, fierce, desperate, full of hunger that had been buried in silence for too long. Elliot gasped into the kiss, her hands clutching his shoulders, feeling the raw strength trembling inside him. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the couch as if she were the most precious treasure he had ever owned. When their bodies touched, he moved like a man on fire, not sloppy, not uncertain, but burning with an intensity she had never experienced before. It wasn't just sex. It was proof. Proof to himself that he was still alive. Proof that the accident hadn't stolen his manhood. Proof that, with her, he was whole. Elliot could barely breathe under the waves of passion he poured into her. He kissed every inch of her like he was memorizing her body. His hands roamed with a mixture of reverence and urgency, as if each touch could erase the years of doubt inside him. "Elliot," he whispered hoarsely against her neck, "you don't understand. This feels like the end of the world. Like if I don't give you everything now, I'll die." Her heart twisted at the broken honesty in his voice. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her, his dark eyes shimmering with tears he was too proud to let fall. "Then live like the world is ending," she said, her voice soft but commanding. And he did. Junho moved with a hunger that made Elliot's body tremble. He was both gentle and feral, romantic yet savage, every stroke, every kiss, every touch saying, "I'm alive because of you." Hours passed, but it felt like one long, endless moment. When finally they collapsed into each other's arms, breathless and trembling, he buried his face in her chest like a child seeking comfort. His strong frame shook, not from exhaustion but from the overwhelming relief of being free from shame, from fear, from loneliness. "I thought I was broken," he confessed, voice muffled against her skin. "All those nights I believed I was half a man. And then you—" He pulled back, staring at her with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You gave me back everything. Elliot, you healed me." Her eyes softened. She ran her fingers through his messy black hair, smiling at the man who only hours ago had looked so untouchable, so terrifying to the world. To her, he was just human, raw, vulnerable, and hers. "Maybe you were never broken," she whispered. "Maybe you were just waiting for the right woman." That struck him harder than a bullet. He kissed her again, slower this time, tasting every ounce of sweetness her lips carried. From that night on, he knew Elliot wasn't just another woman. She was his cure, his miracle, his salvation wrapped in silk and laughter. And for Elliot, the shock of his passion that night left her stunned. She had never been taken with such desperate romance, such intensity, as though the man was writing his soul across her skin. She realized she wasn't just helping him reclaim his strength. She was falling into something far deeper than she had ever imagined. For the first time in his violent, chaotic life, Junho whispered words he never thought he'd say. "Don't leave me, ever." And for the first time in hers, Elliot answered without hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere." The city outside kept shining, oblivious to the storm of love inside the penthouse. But in that room, under the glow of dim golden lights, the Mafia boss and the boutique owner sealed something more powerful than any deal, more dangerous than any rivalry, and more unbreakable than any scar. Love, raw, unstoppable, and burning as if the world was ending.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that no matter how broken you think you are, the right love can make you whole again. Thank you so much for watching. Can you like, subscribe and share?